Okay, everyone. First off, for those joining this stream or watching it later, I will preface by saying that I'm going to do this rather quickly, given this is a huge box. I wanted to get a ruler to illustrate how big and thick, which you can't quite understand from the top view. Well, you can see if, yeah, even from the front view, my camera won't show this very well. But point is, this is a huge box with tons of stuff in it, which is why I wanted to do an unboxing, but also I will probably go through it kind of quick. So I apologize for that in advance. I didn't have a ton of time, but I've been waiting to do this for a while, so I'm just going to do it now. And I also want to say that I give a big thank you to Glass Cannon, the publisher of Apex Legend. I think her name was Katerina or Carolina, someone from their customer support team. I believe in Poland is where they are physically located. Was very, very helpful over the last few weeks in helping me get my pledge. I was an idiot and made some stupid mistakes in the information I was giving for my pledge, which I backed several years ago. A couple years ago now. And that's the other thing I want to mention for you, for any of you that have no familiarity with this board game or where it comes from. Apex Legends originally a computer game, came out several years ago, and it's a battle royale style video game, much like PUBG or the main Fortnite or Call of Duty, whatever they call their battle royale system. So Apex Legends comes along as a computer game a few years ago. I got into this game with some of my friends for a little bit. Really enjoyed the video game. Probably my favorite battle royale video game. I've tried the Call of Duty one. I've tried PUBG, and I think I like Apex Legends the most. But besides that, but beyond that, they finally decided to make a board game based around that PC game, and this was crowdfunded then like I said, a couple years ago. And if you're interested, there's a whole campaign page for it now. It will come to retail, but the pledge that I'm opening here is the all-in. I think what's just showing on the screen right now, and yeah, so all-in pledge. So that's what this is in front of me, and the only other thing, I can't. Oh yeah, well, if you're watching this for the solo purposes, I got this game. Big part of my interest in this game was because of the solo play that was promised for the game, and / co-op play that was promised for the game, and it is a separate expansion that you need in order to play the game solo or co-op. However, I think it's worth getting if you're going to invest in the game, especially and if you're a solo or co-op player. I definitely think it's worth investing in. So let's just get to the unboxing. And like I said, I don't think the scale of this box is very obvious looking at from the angle you are, but this is the best angle that I think makes sense for an unboxing. So right away, tons of stuff to look at. I'll try to go through piece by piece. First of all, because of the pledge I did, the all-in pledge, it just everything gets packed together. So, which I actually really appreciate. I don't need separate boxes for everything. This is actually a great learning opportunity for other publishers doing crowdfunding campaigns for games where they offer a all-in type pledge. Instead of just shipping every single box separate, just combine it into one box for the player, because otherwise the player is going to be doing that on their own, and then they're going to have empty boxes. And if you're like me, you have this like sinking feeling that you can't throw away boxes. And anyway, when it's shipped like this, then I don't even have to worry about that. Everything is together. So for example, the solo co-op expansion normally is separate, but since I did this all in pledge, they just packed it in with everything else. Great. We'll take a quick look at the rule book for this over here. Oops, that lighting is pretty atrocious. So let me try to fix that on the fly. Apologies for that. It's not even a little. Why is it so orange? I think that's better. Okay, so The co-op solo rulebook is in total 33 pages ish, basically 33 pages. And so don't let the small size can whatchamacallit trick you. It's still a very robust system. I'm not going to go over it in detail right now. Mainly just want to show what the solo rulebook, co-op rulebook looks like. But I will say right off the bat that if you want to play this game solo/co-op, there are a little bit of restrictions to the gameplay. First of all, you're only able to play 2 of the available 6 modes as when you're playing solo or co-op. No idea at the moment if they're going to expand on that. And then also I'm blanking on what else I was going to say. There's 12 characters total for the game that are available if you get everything, and only 6 of the legends have the content necessary to play with them solo and or co-op. The other thing to note, if you are going to play solo or co-op, I think you at least have to play 2v2 games. Maybe you can play 3v3 as well, but no, it's 2v2. The solo system is designed, and the bot system is designed around having 2 enemies to fight against. So you basically are always playing a 2v2 game. But what's unique is, therefore, you might, solo, you're wondering if you have to then 2-hand as a solo player, but you actually can use the solo bot system for your squad mate too. If you really only want to play one player as one legend as a human, you can do that with this solo system. So I thought that's kind of cool. I haven't, to manage a bot for your side. Otherwise, you can, of course, play with a teammate. As I've said many times, it can be played co-op. But you can only play with then one teammate. You can only play, like I said, 2v2 and solo and co-op. So just keep in mind those limitations for the solo co-op mode. All right, so then we have a Loba character expansion, which has the little sheet that would come in that expansion already in the big box here. Then we have what's called the match settings. So as I was just going over for the solo co-op mode, there's only so many. You can only play the Battle Royale and Team Deathmatch mode solo or co-op. But there are 3 additional modes of play: Capture the Flag, Assassination, and Boss mode, which obviously sound fun, and definitely I'm immediately thinking, I wish I could play those solo and or co-op. Unfortunately, that's just not the case right now, and I don't know if they will plan to design additional expansions so you can play solo or co-op with these other modes. But this booklet is purely going over those different modes of play that aren't really covered in the base rulebook, but then all the different flavorful maps you can design with all the content that comes in the box. So there's all these different, this is a big part of the replayability, is the different map layouts, and then they have this section called Special Features, which basically are additional rules and components you can add to a game to make it more interesting. A big part of the video game, in any Battle Royale game, I should say, is what's called the ring, which basically is this imaginary ring that closes in on the players as the game goes on. And if you're outside the ring, you're going to be taking damage. So it forces players in the video game to, of course, kind of congregate into one area. And that's also replicated in the board game, but in the board game they actually call it a feature, so you don't necessarily have to play with the ring. If, for example, you think it's kind of annoying to play with, or you're playing with someone who's kind of new to the series or new to the game, and anyway, that's just one of the features. And they have a bunch of others, which I'm not going to go into detail, but that's part of this booklet, is explaining how to fold in all these other features. One is called events. They just have an event card deck, which I think is also very interesting and could really provide a lot of flavor to scenarios, since it is a deathmatch or skirmish game. And I think that's always a challenge with skirmish games, is over time, can they keep their replayability value? So next we have a reference with all the tag descriptions. I think this system is pretty effective from what I've seen in the rulebook, in that everything is given various tags, which explains if they're taking up a space or not, if they're blocking line of sight or not, and other aspects. So that's what these tags are for, and they give you a nice reference sheet for it. And then on the back of that, they show all the different types of terrain and components that will be on the map, and then the associated tags with each of them, whether they're blocking line of sight, whether they're blocking the space, providing cover, that sort of thing. So I think this system overall is well done, and that's what that's for. then we have what I always love for a big game of this magnitude is a packing instruction list, because let's face it, you never remember how you take things out of a box. And if you're going to have this huge box that's so nicely organized, it's a necessity to have instructions like this. So really pleased that they include this for the player. Okay, now let's start getting into the various components. The first thing that I have is, let me just check on something. First thing is, what is it? Kind of like the player board. This is like what keeps our round track, basically keeps track of the rounds. You have 8 rounds generally, I believe, to finish the game, and then it gives you the turn structure. Red squad goes first, blue squad, red squad, blue squad. That's just how the board game was designed. So that's what this is for, and then it keeps track. So it cools down. So a big part of a very big important part of the computer game is the fact that characters have unique abilities and ultimate abilities specifically that are really powerful. And of course, in the video game, you use them, they go on cooldown. You can't just instantly reuse it. So that's replicated in the board game by using this round tracker, which also then is keeps track of your abilities because they go on cooldown, which basically means you put a token a round or 2 out, or several turns out to show that you can't use that ability again. And also, some abilities last for a certain amount of time in the video game, so that's also represented in the board game by tokens on this board showing the duration ability lasts. So I really think they did a great job of incorporating those abilities and the cooldowns and durations with this tracking board. So anyway, that's what this is. Then we have all the map boards. So I also, the All-In Pledge comes with a neoprene mat as well, but these would be the individual map boards that you would put together in a 2x2 matrix if you were setting up to play a game. Nothing special about these. I think the artwork is functional, which is all it needs to be. I don't know what side first. Let's do this one. Here we have, I'm not going to bother even opening the tray. I don't think it's necessary. But this is, and it's several pieces, but this is the track used when actually shooting your weapons. Basically, in this game, you're drawing cards with a value on them along this track, and you're trying to get a certain to hit number. So instead of rolling dice, you're drawing cards for randomization in this game. And there's so much nuance to how combat is resolved when you're drawing these cards. I'm not going to go into it right now, but that's what this board is for, is basically when you're shooting, you're playing cards underneath each of these numbers sequentially, depending on the magazine size of the gun you're using. More magazine means more cards are drawing. Anyway, so that's what this is for. And then we have the various terrain pieces here that would go on the board depending on which of those map orientations you're using for your game. Next, we have a bunch of pre-designed weapons, and you can see that these trays are designed to hold other stuff, which I haven't figured out myself yet. I'm assuming for tokens and everything. So these inserts look very well done, and but I'll get to that when I finally start putting stuff away. But these are what I'm calling, like I said, pre-built weapons. Generally, in the video game, you of course are not using. You're adding attachments to your big part of the video game, I should say, is adding attachments to your weapon as you play through the game. But in the board game, depending on like the scenario you're playing, I think Team Deathmatch is one. You just get weapons that automatically have attachments on them, and just to kind of expedite gameplay, so you're not spending a lot of the game finding these upgrade tokens. But real quick, the weapons in the game, pretty much every weapon you play in the video game is present in the board game. I'll say that up front, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm a player from a couple years ago, so I'm sure there's some new stuff. But every weapon has more or less a similar layout, and they have the ammo type in the upper right, which is straight from the video game. They have a range, optimal range, I should say, which I really like this system in the video game. Some weapons definitely are more suited for long range and short range fighting. And in the board game, they try to represent that with this optimal range value. So ideally, you're shooting someone within that range away. So of course, this is a sniper, and it says it's best at 6 or more spaces away from the enemy. But it doesn't mean you can't actually shoot beyond or under that. So if you wanted to shoot either less than 4 for this gun or less than 6 for this gun, you just have a penalty modifier when you're drawing those cards. So I really appreciate how they incorporated that aspect of the video game into the board game to kind of abstractly show that, hey, if you were fighting someone right next to you, these guns would probably not be very effective, and that's going to penalize you when you're drawing your cards for the attack. Which makes sense. I mean, imagine someone's right next to you and you're trying to hit them with a sniper that has massive recoil. It's not going to probably end well, so you're not incentivized to do that in the board game. Anyway, I think the weapons are well done. So that's this section of the box. These are health and shield dials. Big part of the board game is tracking health and shield. Video game is tracking health and shield. So in the board game, they give you round trackers for that, which is nice. These are all, I believe, I'm making a little bit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these are all the different ability tokens for the unique legend for the legend. So the main abilities you get in the board game or in the video game for Apex Legends are represented by, again, the abilities of the actual legends in the board game. So there's various tokens used depending on which ability for which legend. And then let's kind of go over here, I guess, next. We have a bunch of these player boards, which are, as you can see, have indents in them. So that's really cool. And these are the backpack. Just like the video game, you have a backpack where you store things you're picking up, and then you have a helmet, a body, and knockdown shield slots, which is just like the video game. So that's where these items would go if you find them in the board game. And then over here on the right, these are where you'd locate you'd put your weapon cards. And then this is for ammo. So a big part of the video game is also having enough ammo for your guns. That's also represented in the board game, which I think is cool. They bothered doing that. Here we have, these are the, so this is a reference card for the bot AI Sol system, by the way. So that's what this is. I won't go into detail on the Sol system, but this gives you an idea of kind of the complexity of that. And I'm not sure actually why there's more than one card in here. I'm going to click open that because I'm curious why they're... Oh, okay. Yep. So this is like a general one. Or this is general for setting priorities of enemies. That's a big part of the AI Legends turn, is you first have to decide who your primary enemy is, because that trickles down into affecting how you activate them. But which I think is really awesome, is every legend. So like I said, they only have it for 6 so far, but still every legend has their own AI card to kind of, fold in the flavor of how those characters would perform in the video game. And then we have, I guess, unique cards for each legend that gives maybe a high level overview of what they come with, component wise, card wise. And then you have, these look like, reference cards for the players to look at, which spell out action points and what the various actions you can do are. Real simply, on your turn, you have 2 action points to spend, and there's a bunch of different options for spending those action points. Shooting, of course, going to be the main action you're going to be doing, and you can only ever shoot once per turn, but then there's tons of other things you can be doing. So that's what those are. Like I was just saying, this is from the Wulba expansion, I assume. That's why it's separated out. Then there's map tokens for representing canyon terrain, if you're playing a scenario with canyon terrain. And then, these are all the what I would call the health and shield trackers. So you would use these for the discs for tracking health and shield, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on all of that. Not exactly sure what this token is for. Okay, that just comes out. Then we have miniatures. So this is a mini game, I guess, at the end of the day. And here's the miniatures. I don't really want to risk breaking them, and so I'm just going to kind of show them in the tray at the moment. But they have not only do they have physical miniatures or miniatures for the actual legends themselves, but then they have miniatures for a lot of the relevant abilities for each of the legends, instead of just basic tokens. And so this, I think, also looks like from the Loba expansion. That's why it's maybe off on its own. But this is the Loba character, and a big part of the game is having, or the board game was having these diorama things for each character that I guess you can just station your character at when you're not playing the game. I don't fully understand. I guess that's also from the video game in a sense that, but anyway, that's what those are for. This is for one of the game modes of play. If you're wondering, I'm not exactly sure which game mode, but one of the game modes you'd be using these to keep track of what items you have available to you, opposed to actually you finding the tokens on the board. I'll take this out because this just shows more of the Ape Legend miniatures. You even have the supply drop miniature, so just all types of miniatures in this game. We have a baggie for supply drop. Now I've just noticed this today. This is actually for the Lifeline character when they have their own special supply. They have a special ability in the video game called supply drop, and so that's represented in the board game with their own unique bag for finding loot, which I think is really cool. Looks like there's stuff underneath this tray. Yeah. So more minis. I think these are actually more like zipline. I'm not sure exactly what all these miniatures are for. They use for gameplay purposes, but I know these are for the shield that closes in around the corner of the game board as you go on. So that's what those are. But in general, when you're pulling loot tokens, in the video game, a big part of the game is getting loot tokens. And in the board game, that's represented by drawing from these drawstring bags, which I think, and they're actually very soft. I mean, these a baby could sleep on these, I think. May try that with my baby daughter. And then we have the associated supply miniatures for that allow you to look in those bags. And what's cool about these miniatures is just like in the board game, just like in the video game, when you open up a supply bin, they actually pop open, and once they're popped open in the video game, you can't get anything out of them anymore. And so that's represented in the board game too by them physically opening, which is really fun, I think. So that's what those are. These are I can tell these are the cardboards for the 3D structures that you have in the game, in the board game that you'd be building out. We have more supply drop minis. I'm actually not blanking on what these minis are used for. Then we have in here, more structured foldouts for the structures that you would have in the game. Then you have, this looks like all the cards that you would have in the that you're playing with. So I think these might be for ammo tracking. I believe that's what it looks like to me. This I think is for one of the features that you can play with. These are for one of the features if you're looking to there's a mode where you can find these gems to build your own loot tokens essentially for your weapons, and then these are for the tokens to create the dials for your health and shield track. Then let me see if there's any comments. Okay. Then we have all the different cards for the different characters, which include not only then a tactical ability and ultimate ability. But also, every legend in this board game has 8 what they call feat cards to kind of abstractly represent the passive abilities that the legends have in the video game, since that's a little more difficult to incorporate into the board game. So how they decided to do that is just having feat cards that you can play on your turn, and they're completely asymmetric from one legend to the other. And then this, like for example, is one of the Automa cards for Bangalore. So the Automa player also has a deck of their own unique feat cards, very similar in a sense to the feat cards a human player would be using, but designed around having an Automa player. Where did these came from? Well, all right. So more dioramas for all the different legends. That's what these. Oh, maybe all the dioramas for all the different legends. Yeah. So it looks like that, of course, takes up a lot of space over here, since that's how they are. And then on the bottom, looks like all the tokens, or a token sheet is at the bottom of all of this. And then these look like, yeah, more of the 3D structure fold-outs. So that will be my one immediate frustration, is of course deciding how I want to handle the fold-outs for the structures. Is, do I want to keep putting them back in the box every time, or just keep them set up? But that that was, like I said, pretty fast in terms of going through everything, but at least gives you an idea what's in this giant black box. If you see it anywhere else in the wild or online, now you know this is Apex Legends, the board game, and hopefully it's something that interests you. Again, I'm a big solo co-op player, so what interests me about this game is the solo co-op mode, and I hope sooner than later to actually do either live playthrough for that, or at least try it myself so I can talk about the solo system. Again, from what I've read in the rule book, it looks pretty robust, and that's a big reason why I thought this game would be cool to get. But even competitively, I'm not necessarily a huge competitive skirmish gamer because I like co-op games. But this game, I really think would be fun to play competitively as much as solo and co-op, especially those different modes of play that I feel may provide unique gameplay opposed to just running and trying to kill your opponents. So with that said, I'm going to conclude this unboxing. As is. If you have any questions though about anything you saw, please don't hesitate to make the comments below in the comment section of the video. And yeah, I mean, Apex Legends, I've been, like I said, wanting to open this box up for a long time, and finally just deciding to do it now. Really excited to play this game. So without further ado, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you guys again soon, and hope you have a great day of playing some board games yourself. Also, one thing I did want to say is, if you have any games that you've played that to have a tactical solo or co-op mode, I'd love to hear what those games are, and if you felt their systems are well done. The one game that I recently have played in the past on the channel is way up there, Snapshot Tactics. That's essentially a tactical miniatures game and has a solo co-op system in it, and I thought that system was very well done as well. Similar to Apex Legends in that every enemy ship has its own unique cards that you run through to kind of, not only is the enemy ships different from one to the other, and that makes them then asymmetric, but then their activation cards are slightly different to promote a certain type of style of gameplay depending on what ship you're fighting. So excuse me. So that's also done in Apex Legends, like I was saying. But there's not many, I feel, game systems out there like that, because I imagine it's very challenging to design a system for intelligent solo AI behavior in a tactical board game. So curious if you guys have any